Sliding doors, please.
Hello everybody, welcome to Xucaboa 100% Vanilla Baby, where I'm trying to build the most incredible vanilla city you've ever seen in your entire life. As always, I'd like to say thank you, gracias, obrigado to new subscribers. Our new citizens for today are Hong Kong, Merriweather, and Cidadopolis. On the honor roll today are Isaura Yapor and Kyle Mattox. Let's take a look at what we did last episode. Alongside the mountains in the north, we began work on a low-density town called Picklin, home of the Brain Gamer IG Glass and Metal Co. That company is a 5-star ore industry area using processor buildings to create materials from imported ore, since we've already extracted all of the ore from the mountain. It's a small town with an American look, based loosely on Corning, New York, and it's still got plenty of room for expansion and development. You can see the town is built with a few different forested layers working up the mountainside. So now we've got a 5-star ore industry area, and we've got a 5-star oil industry area. Back in our very first tile, we've got the 5-star Canal Sala de Jogos farm industry area, but down in Xucaboa Beach we've only got a 2-star forestry industry area. Let's rename it while we're here. Xucaboa Beach Palms. I think that sounds good. These palm plantations are blended into a very rural jungle beach area and are more for look than function. We've still got several forested areas in the map to examine for prospective future industry areas. There's the Felipe G National Forest, but definitely no industry there. There's this area over in Sector Golf near the abandoned rail yard. It has potential, definitely. We'll have to do a wildlife assessment though before we consider building anything there. Over near Grottles Expressway, we've got a small forest near the water, which could be an interesting location. On each side of the beach bay, we've got palm forests, but we already know that there are charismatic megafauna that live in these habitats. Here's one now, and we'll call this cougar Big Xuca. On the other side of the bay, there's a Roslyn tropical woodland bison. We'll name it Boof. There you go, Boof. For today's honor roll, our first honoree is Isaura Yapor, the creator of the City Skylines Vanilla Facebook group, and a huge supporter of not just Xucaboa, but literally every single vanilla city that is shared in the group. She's basically vanilla royalty, and for that, we will name this island Isla Isaura. As a historic member of vanilla royalty, she can have this historic castle here too. Todo te extrañamos, Isaura. For our second honoree of today, we're gonna have to do a little bit of work first. We all know that to get to Il Cachalot, we can either cross the Bruno B Bridge or take the Grottles Expressway. But to get from the fish market to Grottles Expressway, it's a long drive through the city. To fix this situation, we'll create a connection for SKYLINE Boulevard. First, a little bit of cleaning up these default rocks and bushes that are in the area. No bushes are allowed here. SKYLINE Boulevard will kind of follow the water and head right into this ditch that's already here, where we could create a new interchange. First, let's flatten the ditch a bit and make some room to work. Now we'll use the slope terrain tool to make some natural ramps. Under the highway bridges, the pillars are not perfectly aligned, but instead of redoing them, let's just put the road underneath at a slight angle. I think this will be a little bit more interesting. Using regular streets, we'll create a long cruciform shape here. Then we can curve the streets around to connect each end to make this teardrop shape. Again, curving away from the teardrop, we can start building our ramps. We're using regular roads here because highway roads can curve in a weird way sometimes. We can upgrade now that we've laid down the streets in the shape that we want, and we'll use one-lane highway for most of it, with a two-lane highway at the bottom of the teardrop. This should allow for vehicles to change lanes as they're zipping on and off the northbound expressway. Over here, we'll make some gentle slopes so we don't have any unsightly bumps happening, and then we'll extend this two-lane highway out towards SKYLINE Boulevard. Again, using the slope terrain tool, we'll prepare the terrain for on and off ramps for the southbound side of Grotto's Expressway. I find it usually works out best when you do both ends first and then connect them in the middle. Now what we'll do is we'll extend the boulevard all the way out to this interchange. That little asymmetrical segment of highway is just too small to upgrade, so we'll just redesign this quickly so that it works. Turn off our stoplight at the junction and we should be good. Now let's do some very small detail work to the teardrop. We'll place 3 palm bushes down, and when you look at it from this angle, it looks kind of like Edvard Munch's The Scream. Definitely getting a wow face vibe here, or maybe something else. We'll name this interchange for our second honor roll member for today, Kyle Mattox. Kyle posted an interchange he did in the City Skylines Vanilla Facebook group. In the comments, I drew a smiley face inside of it. Now he did one better and came back at me with this, the name Xucaboa written in trees and bushes. I really love that, Kyle, and you definitely locked in your honor roll status with that move. Nice work. Now let's make sure that SKYLINE Boulevard is properly extended out to the interchange. And we can go back and make sure that our junctions have stop signs instead of traffic lights, giving priority to the boulevard so that traffic can move quickly towards the expressway. Now it's time for Inspiration Station. Welcome to Inspiration Station, also known as Google Earth. We're going to zoom in on the historic city of Porto, Portugal. Looking at this historic center from the Douro River, you can see that this is a compactly built city in some challenging terrain. When we go up this hill, we'll quickly arrive at the São Bento train station. This beautiful building has light rail, metro, and tram connections. The primary light rail connections come through a tunnel under the hill and quickly exit alongside this retaining wall still situated high above the river. It then passes in and out of 2 more tiny tunnels before it arrives at the modern Porto Companhia train station. Here, larger trains arrive from across the region. Following the tracks back towards the river, you see that they cross the Ponte de São João, which exits the city to the south. Next to that bridge, you can see the defunct Ponte de Dona Maria Pia, a beautiful one-track rail bridge designed by Gustav Eiffel that is no longer in use. Towards the city center, you can see the iconic Ponte de Dom Luizon. Cars still cross the lower deck of this bridge. But the upper deck was closed to cars in 2003 to allow for a new commuter metro tram line to pass to the Vila Nova de Gaia in the south. This metro is a bit closer to a big tram than a light rail, but that's okay. You can see how the tracks go on for some distance to connect these residential areas to the city center. We'll try to incorporate some of these features from this city as we begin to design our first metro line at Xucaboa. Let's head over to the Alan D metro station in Robin Square and start preparing the area. We'll move the DNAM taxi depot out of the way and delete this tunnel we'd started just before. Let's push the terrain back just up to the metro station to allow for a nicer tunnel. Here, I'm trying to stretch out the curve of the tunnel as long as I can so that I have the longest piece of concrete tunnel. Now we'll use the well-known trick of flooding a small area so that we can build a retaining wall with quays. Now that the quay is in place, we can remove that terrain and let the water go away. We'll redo the road a little bit to give us a slightly larger gap between it and the wall so that we can detail it later. Drawing out our metro tracks, we soon come up to our first hill. The plan here is to go under the highway, so we'll flatten the terrain right up to it. Let's get our lowermost terrain step here and create a slope from our metro track down to it. Instead of using a train tunnel here, I found it looks a little bit nicer to make the highway a bridge. So we'll do that. We've got a lot of elevation differences in this area as we approach the canal, so we'll have to prepare a few spots to work from. Projects like this one can be very challenging to achieve a look that's smooth and realistic. I practiced this build a few times and each end result was different from the next one. My first strategy here will be to build a bridge at the angle that I want going across the highway. Then I'll work the terrain up to it. This curve is just too awkward. So we'll just delete it and do it again. I don't want unnecessary curves in the metro rail track, but I also don't want anything to look too straight and rigid. I'm going to take my time to make sure that each segment looks good. That said, this area here is still undeveloped, and so I know for sure that I'll end up rerouting the tracks as the city grows around it. So this part of the project doesn't have to be good, it just has to be good enough. I won't explain too much more here. I'll let you watch the process unfold as I try to get an acceptably smooth, but probably temporary section of metro rail track laid down. Now let's set up metro stops at each end of our new line. These metro trains will travel between the Miguel Oeste station in the Fish Market and Alan D station in Robin Square. Let's hitch a ride with this train so we can check for any problems in the track. I think everything looks good. Now that the metro train is up and running, let's put in our first bus lines in Robin Square to help travelers get to and from the station. We'll run a simple circuit here, and then a second bus line over here. Let's just call them Robin Square Local 1 and Robin Square Local 2. We'll run a time lapse through the night and let the buses begin their rounds. After a night cycle has passed, the AI has balanced out and people are beginning to use our metro and bus lines. This should reduce a percentage of car traffic now and hopefully more into the future as the city grows. Now let's prepare to do some construction over here to name for our new Xucaboa citizens. These power lines going across the inlet were a temporary measure done a long time ago, but it's time for them to go. Back during the great population cheesing of episode 21, where we unlocked every milestone, a third geothermal plant was built at Geothermal Hill, and it's remained there since. But I think having that power station on Isla Isaura will make a lot more sense. This will be our first named building of the episode, and we'll call it the Hong Kong, or Hong Kong, Geothermal Plant. This power station produces no ground pollution, but lots of noise, so we'll keep it on this side of the highway by the water. Now we can begin doing some basic detailing like putting fences up. I want to place the power line next to the power transformer because that's as close to realistic as we can get here. We will probably need the power lines to connect across the highway, and I think that looks pretty good for now. Now I'm going to do a little bit of improvised terrain work on this side of the metro track. Then I'll build a small bridge that will cover up the exposed corner of the retaining wall. I think I'm going to use the industrial road for most of the bridge, but leave an asymmetrical 3-lane road over by the junction. Now, in this location, I'm going to place down the Household Plastic Unique Factory. I think it looks good next to the Just Kano Disaster Response Unit. We're going to name this the Merriweather Plastics Company. I'm going to play around a little bit with a few ideas about how to fit in some assets in this area. Got some room here for a road, but it doesn't leave us a lot of space for a warehouse yard. So we'll get rid of that and put the warehouse yard up top. Wow, that road doesn't look so good right there. Let's add this road right here, act as kind of like a parking lot or something like that. And over here we'll place a warehouse and a warehouse yard. We'll set them to hold plastics, petroleum, and unique factory products, and we'll set them all to fill. The plastics and petroleum will be imported from the Milkshake oil refinery up north. This should help with keeping the Merriweather Plastics Company fully stocked with the materials it needs to create the unique products. Let's just do some light detailing around the area for now. A couple of fences, couple of bushes, standard issue stuff. Now, I'm thinking it would be best if there was a direct ramp off to this area so that the industrial heavy traffic doesn't have to go through the roundabout and into Robin Square directly to come back here. This is a pretty short distance though, so it's going to take some extra care to make sure things come out smoothly. Maybe we can snake a second one-way industrial road on this lower level to create some access around the plastic factory. I don't know how else I'm gonna get down there. We can put a road under the bridge here, and now we can relocate the D&M taxi depot to this spot. Now this one-way road has to go somewhere though, so maybe we can hook it back around and connect up with the loop highway. I don't know, it's kind of ugly. You know what? The more I look at this road, the uglier it seems to me. So it's not what I want. Let's get rid of it. We'll delete it and deal with that area in a future episode. Before we detail this area, I'd like to place one of the tall radio masts from Disasters DLC. I'm gonna set it down right here so I can see the orientation of the gate. And then I'm gonna move it right over here. You can see that the stays are able to cross over the highway and metro rail track, which is pretty cool. I have no electricity over here yet, so we'll run a power line near the metro rail track and towards the city. We'll call this radio mast the Cidadopolis radio mast. You can find Cidadopolis on their YouTube and Twitch streams, and sharing screenshots in the City Skylines Vanilla group. By building this tall radio mast, we've greatly expanded our emergency radio coverage across the city. This service will help make citizens happier, and buildings may get a boost to level up. Let's just redraw our pipes in this area. Make it a little bit cleaner. Uh-oh, we got no electrical connection there. Let's add an earthquake sensor near the roundabout to help connect power. There we go, that looks a lot better now. We'll start to replace the fencing around the highway before we plant our jungle trees again. I'm using the fence from the zoo that comes with Park Life DLC because I think it looks like a good safety barrier. It's kind of the way I've been using it in the city for the most part. Let's take a look at the Merryweather Plastics Company and time-lapse through the night to make sure that our imports are arriving on time. I think it looks fine. No major issues. Ay caramba! We've got 2 high-rise buildings here. Let's knock them down. I think this one office building is alright. Looks pretty cool. Now, I didn't enact the no high-rise policy, and I'm not interested in having skyscrapers in Robin Square yet. We'll let the new buildings grow back and watch as they level up so that we get the buildings that we like. Might take a while yet. Now let's take a look in this episode's YouTube box. In the box today is Christopher Hubble, the Hubbub. Christopher's been working on making the beautiful modded city of Nouveau Springs in the vanilla map of Azure Gulf. He's got a great attention to detail and has a lot of really cool ideas, so be sure to check out his project on YouTube and on Instagram. Before we wrap up the episode, I got this idea from a recent overcharged egg video on city policies. Let's turn off our smoke detector distribution policy that we enacted back when Captain Obvious first became Fire Commissioner in episode 9 and see how much money we save. Looks like very substantial savings, so we'll leave that turned off. Even though in real life I am a huge smoke detector advocate, check your batteries, my people. For the record, I have disabled fire spreading because with the amount of trees planted, a single spark can burn down our entire city. How about now we try enabling the small business enthusiast policy to see if the taxes on goods generate more income than we spend on the $2 per building upkeep cost. That seems like a very successful policy, so let's keep it in place. Now let's try the same with the $4 per building big business benefactor policy. Another success. Now on to the industrial space planning policy. With this policy enacted, we lose about $20, so it's not worth using. Our next policy we'll try out is the workers' union. This will increase happiness, but lower residential taxes by 2%. I'll try to compensate for that by enacting the 2% tax raise policies. These are kind of strange to me, so we'll see if people actually get upset by this. Ay caramba, they don't like it. Let's turn off those tax policies and leave the union policy in place to see just how much it's going to cost us. I think we're going to have to say no to the Citywide Workers Union for now. Maybe in the future it'll be more beneficial to us. Okay, we'll take a quick look around Isla Isaura to make sure that everything is in order and there are no outstanding issues or problems that we can see. As always, let me just say thank you for watching Xucaboa 100% Vanilla Baby, episode number 30, and I'll see you next time.